A lot of people out there don't know much about cars when they go and get their first car or even their second and third car. And if they're going to buy in the used market, there's a bunch of traps waiting for them. And a lot of people watch videos like mine where I say if you're getting a first car or if you're getting a used car and you're uninitiated, right? Maybe you're new to cars or maybe you're a new car enthusiast dipping your toes into the hobby, into the lifestyle. Get yourself a nice Japanese car. Get yourself a Toyota, maybe a Honda, a Mazda, something Japanese, something reliable. If you want to stay really reliable, get yourself a Camry, Corolla. And if you want to go towards a sportier end, still stick with Japanese. Something like a Toyota 86, Civic Si, Civic Type R, something of that nature. Make life a bit easy for yourself. And they'll know that deep down, and they'll understand that deep down, but then they'll go out into the market. And they'll go onto the listings and they'll see the Japanese cars, but then they'll see BMW, Audi, Mercedes, maybe even Land Rover and Range Rovers, right? And then they'll also see Maseratis, maybe an Alfa Romeo, and they'll think to themselves, geez, these cars were $100,000, more than $100,000 brand new, and now they're selling for pennies. Surely I'm onto something. I am seeing something the rest of the market has not seen. What a bargain. I can go and get this car. It'll be a great drive. It's going to give me all the performance of a $100,000 car. It's going to give me all the luxury, all the street cred, right? All the street cred you get with these cars. And it'll really sway their decision. But it's a trap, guys. See, I'm an engineer and I've been investing in stocks for a really long time. Not trading, but investing. One of the rules I learned about stock investing is that when things are cheap, they're cheap for a reason. And through my MBA, I also learned that the market is pretty efficient. You've heard the phrase that majority is right, and it's true. The market is indeed very efficient at pricing things in the majority of the time. Say there's a stock at $100 and it's gone down to $50, or sometimes it'll even go down to $5 or $10, and you come into the market and you think, geez, this stock was $100, now it's trading for $5 or $10. What a deal. I'll go ahead and get this. It's a trap, guys. It's a total trap. Especially if that stock's been sitting there for a while. If it's sort of a day thing or a week thing and there's been some bad news in the market and the stock's been ranked down, sometimes your odds can be a bit better because the market's overreacted or there's been a system error. But if that stock's been sitting there for a little while, right, it used to be at $100 and now it's at 10, that's a red flag. That's the market telling you we've priced this in. We understand and we are ranking this stock down. And very rarely, guys, and I've been investing in equities for years makes no difference, about 10 years. Very rarely has there been a scenario where I've made money from a stock pick like that. And indeed, I think none of them ever went back up to where they used to be. None of the positions I bought. Some of them made me money. But even the ones that made me money, the money was not enough versus if I just bought a nice company, something that hadn't been absolutely demolished. Because the market is smart. The market knows that there is some issue with that company. And overall, when you make a decision against the market, you're taking a bet against everyone out there. Yes, there's some people who don't know much about stocks. You're taking a bet against them. But there are some real geniuses out there. There's some real banks and fund managers and hedge funds and a lot of learned individuals whose entire job, whose entire life is to know and understand these companies. And you're taking a bet that all of them, every single person out there is wrong and you're right. And that applies to cars as well. The only situation where you can make money or get ahead on these sorts of cars, your Benzes, your Audis, your Mercedes, your BMWs, Land Rover, Range Rover, Jaguar, the only time you can get ahead, right, buy a car that's really depreciated heavily and come out on top is if you have an advantage or if you have knowledge that the market doesn't have. So think to yourself, do you know more about that BMW than everyone else? And do you have more skills than everyone else? Because mostly the only time it's okay to make that decision is when you have information, knowledge, and skills. Say you buy that Jaguar. You should know what engine's in that car, what common problems there are, and if something does go wrong, you should have the ability to fix that motor in your garage. Because if you can't, the mechanics are going to charge you so much, it's going to be worth beyond the value of the car. That's the only way you're getting ahead, guys. When you see a BMW and it used to cost $100,000, now it costs $50,000. That's the market saying, hey, we understand it's a BMW. We understand it's fun to drive. We understand it has performance, tech, and luxury. That's why it's not ranked down to $0. So obviously it does have intrinsic value. But it's down here for a couple of reasons. A, it's a luxury product, so it was never worth that $100,000 to begin with. Luxury intrinsically doesn't have value. It more depends on a person's perspective. Number two, that car is going to be really expensive to own and maintain. And that's why we've put it down here. So maybe you buy this car, you have to do an engine rebuild or a transmission rebuild, or a bunch of gaskets are leaking, or your Valvetronic's gone. Maybe you get a Benz and your Camtronic's gone. Maybe you get an Audi and your timing chain goes, right? That could be really catastrophic. And that's exactly why you can buy a BMW, Benz, Audi for the same price as you can buy a Toyota Camry or a Toyota Corolla. And the market says, hey, this Toyota Corolla or Camry here, yes, it's not a luxury car, it doesn't perform, it doesn't have tech, it has a lot of value. That's why it's sitting here. So understand that the market is telling you something, and don't make a trade against the market unless you have skills and information about the product you're getting. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.